So, what the heck are you doing here, Lanny? Well, it's wedding season, and a myth I see online a lot is, should you throw rice at a wedding? And a lot of people wonder about raising chickens, if you should feed them dry rice as well. It's rumored that the rice is dry, so the dryness in effect will absorb moisture while it's inside of the chicken or the bird, resulting in it swelling and exploding. This has been around for quite a while now. It's even been on The Simpsons. It's how popular it is.
Let's see, candles, flowers, place cards, rice.
Oh, Mom, you're not supposed to throw rice anymore. Birds eat it, their stomachs swell, and they explode.
So I thought we would test that, and it's a pretty easy thing to test, I reckon. I have some dry bird seed, and I have some dry rice. I have a cup of each. I'm going to add a cup of water to each, and we're going to see which swells up more. Simple as that. So, as you can see here, I have some very fancy seeds. And it's basically a mix of wheat, barley, corn, some other crap. Lots of stuff. Birdseed. So I got a cup of that. Boom, dump it in there. Level it off. And then I'm gonna grab a cup of grass. And for this video, I will be using long grain parboiled rice. Because I don't buy minute rice because it's a rip-off. Don't use your teeth to open things. All right, so it's been a couple of hours. What do you think has happened? As the rice engorged and it's just like huge now. Is the barley like super huge? Are we all gonna die? Oh my gosh! Look, barely anything happened. What a shocker. So the barley's still digesting. Ignore my mess. As you can see. Other side. It is not anywhere special or it's not engorged. It's not. Hasn't expanded at all. Really, compared to that. So if we take like an individual grain, we look at that. Let's see, it's just not doing anything that fancy. Here, and it's not really, it's quite the difference in color. This is obviously what, this is drier, but it's like really not that much bigger. Nor my dirty finger. Side by side, you are the one. So if this doesn't kill birds, that definitely isn't going to kill your bird. And you have to remember that it's also being ground up into flour because of the crop. How it works, right?
With saliva and digestive enzymes as it moves from the mouth to the esophagus. Once eaten, the food moves into the crop, an expandable compartment where it can be stored for up to 12 hours. It then moves from the crop to the proventriculus, where digestive enzymes break down the food. Once the food has been processed with digestive enzymes, it moves to the gizzard, where muscles and gravel grind up the food. This is why chickens don't need teeth. Nutrients are then absorbed in the small intestine.
Whoa, that's enough for that. Whoa, we'll get to that another time. So, where the heck does this myth originate from, Lanny? Infinite Lanny? Well, if you go to a website called Snopes, you can pretty much find any myth. Or if you're looking for one in Google, just type is bloddity 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 for bloddity bloddity, and then type in Snopes, and it'll usually come up. So what I did was type, is throwing rice at weddings bad for birds? Snopes. And I did this a long time ago, but I have been seeing it a lot online again, so I thought I'd make a video quick. So wedding guests should refrain from this. And it'll tell you right away if it's true or false, and this is false. The rice expands in those little birdie stomachs, causing our avian companions to explode. We're warned. This rumor was so pervasive that in 1985, a Connecticut state legislator introduced a bill amusingly titled An Act Prohibiting the Use of Uncooked Rice at Nuptial Affairs. But local ornithologists, aka bird scientists, had never heard of this before. So they were quoted for saying, "It sounds crazy." And then another one was like, "I have 50 years of professional experience as a practicing ornithologist, and I have never heard of such a thing before." Of course, there can always be a first time, but I'd like to see evidence to promote the idea. And, well, it may not have been prolific then, but it sure is now, and smartphones and everything. So if there were birds exploding from rice, I'm sure we would have videos of it by now.
Why am I just learning this now?
Or horrible, horrible pictures. Yeah, another one was I have never heard of anything like that ever, and I read an awful lot of bird-orientated literature. Darn it. And Ann Landers really bolstered this myth as she wrote an article encouraging people not to do that. But right away, a rice expert named Mary Jo Cheeseman, greatest name ever, said this silly myth pops up periodically and is absolutely unfounded. Rice expert named Cheeseman. She was probably like, "Man, I am not working in cheese." It is a myth. There is no reason why birds, including small songbirds, can't eat rice. A professor at Berkeley said. So you go here, you can get lots of information about this. And Anne even printed a response from a New York ornithologist. And you can see, there's absolutely no truth to the belief that rice, even instant, can kill birds. And it received publicity because of that aforementioned legislation. Yeah, rice is no threat to birds. It must be boiled before it will expand. And even Anne, because she printed this as well, and she said, "Your letter proves once again that if a story is repeated often enough, people will believe it, even if it is false and defies logic. We checked with an authority in the birdhouse at Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago, and she verified your statement. Shame on me for going along with that crock. I feel like a bird brain." Truthfully. And this is also where I got the idea for our little experiment. And so you can see here, a classroom exercise for testing urban myth. Does wedding rice cause birds to explode? Or were Ann Landers, Martha Stewart, and Bart Simpson wrong? So that's basically what I did, is replicated. So they found that soaked rice expanded in volume by 33%, which sounds like a lot, but not so much when compared to ordinary bird seed, which they found expanded at 40%. So, a 33% is big, 44%, or 40% is quite big as well. But should you do it? Well, it depends. Rice is really hard to clean up. So a lot of churches just probably don't want you doing it because they don't want to clean it up. And there has been some reports that it also poses a unique danger. Rice scattered on a hard surface, such as a dance floor or church steps, could, especially somebody with mobility issues, make them fall. So it's probably better to just not throw rice. Unless you're like in an open field. That's like the only great place for it. So yeah, a big part of what actually cooks rice is the heat. It's the steam that allows the water to actually be properly... One more time. I think it's really hard still. And a chicken or your stomach are not hot enough to cook rice, because it takes a lot of temperature to actually cook rice. Yeah, you can see these are all the dry ones, and then them's are the wet ones, and you can see they're all basically the same size. As you can see, it's very much the next day, and very much nothing else has happened. It's all the same, basically. So I got a cup of cooked rice. Even that doesn't fluff up as much as you think it would. It is definitely closer to that 3 cups, but I wouldn't really say it's that much closer. So as you can see, still has not changed, really. So let's see if they explode.
The entire planet of Albion was destroyed. In the making of this video, donate to my Patreon so I don't unleash the rice star onto Earth. Thank you to my Patreons who made the rice star possible. These people will be spared. The Wilbur Stream. The Klaus Family Archive. Ezra the Cat. Steve the Geologist. And Sarah. Hi, Sarah. to subscribe so I don't destroy the world.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
There we go. My nose is itchy. That's better. No.